stop mucking around. Welcome everyone to the Business Women Australia Effective Goals Setting session with yours truly. Well done to see those of you who've carved out the time to join us for this. It's a great time of the year, I reckon, to actually focus on not just what we're going to be doing, but actually why we're doing it and how we're going to do it. But before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge the country in which we are meeting today. This is very sacred country around Australia, wherever we might be. There's been people dancing, celebrating, sharing stories, living and looking after this land for 60 to 120,000 years in parts of this ancient continent. So we pay our respects to all Indigenous elders, past, present and emerging, and we celebrate our sisters in business. And we invite you to think about who you know that is an Indigenous business that's being run by a woman and invite them along and get them to participate in what we're all about at Business Women Australia. I'm on this gorgeous country, which is the lands of the Noongar people of the Whadjuk Nation. Welcome, I'm Lyn Hawkins, for those of you who don't know me. I founded Business Women Australia in 2015 with a friend. She's since retired, and in the last 10 years, we've really become, I think, an incredible national collective of dynamic women. It's a really extraordinary culture, Business Women Australia, and it just, in fact, Tracy Cooper and I were talking about this last week. It doesn't really matter where you go and what events you go to, you get the same kind of genuine connection with the women that are attracted to our community. So it doesn't really matter what sector or industry or state people are from. We have this sort of, I think, a shared value system, I think, which really connects us, and we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're all pretty ambitious, very talented. I'm speaking about myself here. And of course, some of you are all right too, but we are one that's really around co-designing what we're about. So it's extraordinary the ideas that come from our community, and that's really how we've adapted and grown. You know, when I reflect on what Jennifer and I set up in 2015, we've just morphed as our members have come in with all these brilliant ideas and wanted to trial things and wanted to adventure with things. And, you know, some of the things have worked, some haven't, but they've been great along the way because we've grown and we've evolved. So we're made up of all sorts of incredible women from all sorts of walks of life, some already in really powerful leadership roles, some on the way. But I think that's what it actually is, attracting women who aren't afraid to step up and be seen, women who really are champions of change, who want to improve not just their own business or their work environments, but also personally to grow and evolve and to actually look at how we influence. And through doing that, we aren't afraid, are we, of actually having profile. You know, the classic tall poppy syndrome, I think, which I think a lot of us, I suffered a little bit with, you know, growing up in a small country town, being seen as quite different than a lot of the other kids. I didn't come from a farming family. I was a townie for starters, and my dad was the Shire clerk, they called them in those days, the CEO of the Shire. My mum had the local dress shop. So our wealth in the local town was quite extraordinary compared to everyone else's when I look back at it. And as a result, I had all the things, you know, and I think that I tried to kind of make myself a bit smaller in some regards because I had the trampoline, but I didn't want to be seen as the spoilt brat. But in actual fact, I probably was. And I've learned that it's actually okay to have profile. It's okay to have wealth, and it's what we do with our wealth and profile that really matters. And connecting is really, I think, one of the most important parts of what we're about and how we develop and how we define connection. You know, it's not just a numbers game. You know, we get asked all the time, you know, how many people are in Business Women Australia? And I think we've got, 130 members, but we've got thousands and thousands of women that connect in with what we're doing and follow and subscribe and join things here and there. But it's really, I think, a lot around the smaller, more intimate events where the magic happens. And this is because of these values that I talked about earlier on, the courage and the honesty and that open-mindedness, the consciousness that we have in really caring about each other and encouraging each other to explore, I think, is really what I personally love when I get out and around, and being on things like this too, and being around you guys. So if you aren't already a member, but I'm pretty sure most are, but if you aren't, these are some of the great things that joining will bring to you, plus other things. And there's loads already in the calendar, loads of podcasts coming up. Well done, LJ, for getting our premium leader members to commit to podcasts at the end of last year. So you've got a really great lineup, I can see. We've got the Building Financial Acumen on the 18th of January with the fabulous Shane Summer. She's a member in New South Wales. She's a wealth advisor, and she was actually one of the nominated award nominees, I think, last year. She's an extraordinary woman and holds a lot of our events in Sydney at Shadforth Financial Group. On the 24th of April, Liberate Self with the fabulous Vida Carlino, who is in a lot of ways our wise sage in Businesswomen Australia. She has a lot of our inspirational conversations and our courageous conversations in Perth. And we're hoping to encourage Vida to set up a retreat that we can have a little bit more of that kind of personal well-being and spirituality aspects of leadership combined with practical aspects that I bring. Not that that's not practical. I'm sure Vida's coming over this afternoon to do some brainstorming around that retreat. The 1st of February, Tiny Homes, Big Impact with the fabulous Sue Daly, who's on this call. Sue has dedicated so much of her energy, her expertise, and her time into really looking at tiny homes as a great pathway for social housing and social support, providing roofs over the heads of people who need it. And I really encourage you to have a listen to that podcast on the 1st of February. On the 2nd of February, we've got another online masterclass, and Bev Andrews, who's a fabulous leader in the change management space, is actually going to guide us into how we elevate our leadership, looking at change mastery and what that means. Because as leaders in organisations, whether or not we're supervising a team or managing or have our own business, we are essentially in a time that's evolving, and we're having to adapt and lead change all the time. So I encourage you to join that online masterclass and be able to tap into her expertise. On the 6th of February, we've got the International Women in Sports Day with the fabulous Dr. Sasha Fulton. Sasha's background has been in being a coach with Olympic contenders and Paralympians. She's an extraordinary woman around the health and wellbeing, very committed to that. And we're going to actually have a look at, what we can learn from her around her insights coming from that place of International Women in Sports. Another Chats, Cheese and Wine in-person event in Perth coming up with Vida Carlino. The theme for our first one on the 8th of February will be using grace as a weapon. That just sounds so appealing to me. And on the 21st of February, another masterclass, of course. This one is online with the fabulous Kerry Nobes, who is on this call as well. So building psychologically safe work environments is, one of those things that getting the best out of people has to be a safe work environment. And we might, at the end of this call, for anyone who wants to tap into and hear a little bit more about that, Kerry might be able to share a little bit what she's going to cover in that masterclass as well. And then back in Perth, we have a long table dinner on the 29th of February in Mount Hawthorn with 3 Drops owner Jo Bradbury, and I've been seeing the conversation she's having with Chef there at the Small Cabin Bar, and it's going to be incredible. That's delicious on the 29th. So lots in, and there's events going in every week now that we've got LJ back. She's only been back this week, so Melbourne has been out there. Kerry and Catherine Dixon have been out looking at spaces and venues and have something planned, hopefully for March at a vineyard. Sydney's also looking at doing something in the CBD, and Tracy and I were chatting about Brisbane last week. So keep an eye on everything. If you are interested in joining and you've got any questions, Leanne's on the call, leanne@businesswomenaustralia.com.au. And if you are on socials, you can follow us. Make sure you're subscribed to our e-news so you don't miss out on anything that's coming up. So We're into goal setting. Here we are. Well done for being here. Our agenda today is really around, I sort of thought about all the different ways I could tackle this. You know, we did one last year and I tried to find my PowerPoint that I did last year and I actually deleted it. So I did a big clean up of my folders. So then I thought, okay, I can't just rerun last year's one, which was good. And it was a lot around that, you know, sort of focusing on the rocks, you know, the rocks versus the sand versus the pebbles, you know, focusing on the big picture things first, and rather than filling up your bucket with all the sand or the little tasks that we do, and then we don't actually get to the big high priority ones. That's a great analogy, you know, with where to focus. But this year I thought, well, how come I'm so good at getting shit done? And I thought a lot of it's come from my training and my background in process improvement, as well as, of course, I did, you know, strategy planning and company change programs as a part of my degree. But I think what really impacted me on was thinking about everything as a cycle of continuous improvement. And I'm going to share with you that. And I know Tracy Cooper's on this call. And when I did a session with her in Brisbane last year, I think it was last year, she has a little thing called the action learning cycle, which I'm sure she will be able to share as a follow-up. I think, LJ, you can give Tracy everyone's emails and she can share her action learning cycle too, because it actually is very similar to a PDCA cycle. And you'll see that why as when I go through. So it's about really this continuous cycle of learning and growing and checking, acting on something that's based on your plan, reflecting on it, and then continuing. So I'm going to really share with you what this is and how we can then actually apply that to our goals. And then we're going to think about, you know, how we celebrate, how we define success, and some of the systems that can help us along the way. Bit of tech, you know, a bit of sharing around what the different technologies are that we each use, and, you know, how we, you know, do we need an accountability buddy, all that sort of stuff. We can even leave this call with an accountability buddy if that's what you're into, and we will then work out our next steps from taking this off into something that we might regularly check in on. So in the chat box, I'd like you to pop in who you are, where you are from, you know, if you from which state, which organisation, or, you know, you might want to go down to, you know, micro and more information in terms of where you're from, and how you're feeling right now. So pop that in the chat box and we'll all just have a quick look at that chat box. Well done you, Sasha, for being on here on holiday. That's very dedicated. So good. Previa, I know we've only got you for an hour, and congratulations on getting married last year. How amazing. Hope married life is suiting you.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you, Laura, here from Connect Business Insurance. So important. Anyone who hasn't got their insurances in place, have a talk to Laura. So important to have those up to date. Jeanette, great to see you. Rise Coaching, great. Good to have you from Merbau North, east of Melbourne. Oh, we might be driving through there. Catherine Dixon, gorgeous. Overwhelmed already, oh God. But excited. Good on you. Always got a positive view at the end. Cheryl from Dev. How do you say that? Cheryl, jump on. Devoy?
Devoy, that's my fashion business.
Fantastic. And what kind of fashion is it?
Very bold statement clothing.
Oh, okay. Better pop your
Yeah.
website into the chat box, please.
Okay, sure.
We have a few bold statement wearers on this call. And of course, Katrina Ford, anyone of you who needs to know about cybersecurity, absolutely, totally. So fantastic. And we've got some things planned around that too this year as well. So super pumped as always. Awesome. Lovely to have you all here. So let me go into PDCA. Yeah. So those of you, how many, just hands up, how many of you have heard of, or yeah, hands up, how many of you have heard of PDCA before, the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle? Yeah. So a few of you, not too many. Okay, awesome. So the thing about Plan, Do, Check, Act is that when it's combined with SMART goals, which I'm sure all of you have heard about, it's absolutely, I think, one of the most powerful ways of really putting in place what it is that you are going to do and how you're going to do it into that cycle of continuous improvement. So we're going to actually just really have a good look at that. For those of you who want a reminder around SMART goals, they're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, and they're time bound. So, you know, there's some great examples of SMART goals around. For those of you who have already maybe got a SMART goal that you've already started to work on or that you used last year, feel free to share it in the chat box. We'd love to see examples of your SMART goals that you've used in the past, or if you want to just give an example of one, please do. But what we're going to do first of all is talk about the plan part of the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. We usually start on plan, but particularly when it's a new business, or if we've got something new or a problem that we want to solve, or a goal that we want to, if we haven't done much goal setting. So what is it? Why is it important? Who does it involve? How am I going to do it? And where and when is this going to happen? Oh, hello. How did that happen? Okay. Now, combine that with the Wheel of Life. So you might be thinking about starting a goal at the moment in an area of your life that's business related or career related, or it might be personally related. I know that LJ added a template fairly late in the piece. Sorry about that, because I've only just branded it. But if you didn't have a chance to print off that template, I want you to, on a page, put your circle with your spokes onto that, because I'm going to get you to have a little look at your Wheel of Life right now. So put a circle, draw a circle, do your spokes in quarters and then in eighths. That'll do for now. And I want you to actually write the headings. Now you can change the names of the headings. So if health and well-being means exercise, for example, to you, or if it means, if you want to actually just meaning it to being something like nurturing self, or whatever it is that you want to call it, you can change whatever labels you want to being whatever means something to you. The next label I like to have is finance or wealth. For some people, that's not important, so they don't even want that. For me, that's actually really tied to my value system. So not that I'm money oriented, but money is fun tickets for me. So if I haven't got enough money for fun tickets, then my fun value is not met, because the fun that I like doing costs money. So that's just something very superficial about me, but that's me. Career or business. So some of you are business owners on this call. Some of you are career executives. You might want to define that according to, it might be related to your work, or it might be related to your business. You might want to name a business, or you might want to break it into two. Like some of you have two businesses. I have three. I've got a portfolio of three. So I've actually got my business career broken into three areas. One is Business Women Australia, one is Hawkins Marketing, and one is Private Wealth Network. So I actually have 3 areas within that particular spike. The other one, knowledge and education. Someone actually I know calls that wisdom, which I love. Another one doesn't call it wisdom. Some of my students that I mentor at UWA actually call it university. It's their university spoke. Some people are doing some extra study at the moment, so they just want to focus on that. So it might actually have, I'm just going to focus on my AICD company directors course this year, and that's all I'm going to focus on right now, and that's going to be my spoke. So call it what you want. Spirituality and growth. Again, some people, you know, who might be actively involved in their church might call that church. Some people that are like Vida, who is very spiritual with her spiritual journey that then goes into her doing her women's circles, would probably call that according to her spiritual growth. Partner and romance. I have to cross off romance. I call that one Simon. I've been trying to improve my romance with Simon. Previous laughing. But yeah, you might want to call that whatever it is. Another businesswoman that I'm coaching at the moment is really keen to meet her perfect match, and so that's a pretty important one for her right now. Then there's social, or it could be fun, or it could be friends, or whatever it is. It might be someone I know calls that their art, because their art is their main hobby. It's also important, and they want a whole part of their spoke for that. So that's another. Is there anything there that's missing for you? So if there is, add another spoke and put your in. And I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm going to just get you to think about that. And I want you to put a measure of out of 10 against each one of those pies. So 10 being it being absolutely optimum. What is it now? What would you define it as being now? So for me, my finance and wealth, I would say for me right now, it's pretty good actually. You know, we've just been doing a bit of work, but I need to meet with my financial advisor. So I'm probably going to put that at a 7.5. So go around to each of your things. And you might want to write some notes in there too that remind you why you put that as a 7.5. So push your notes out on the edge of your wheel if you've got room, or inside your wheel, and just put a couple of notes around what your thoughts are on that. Okay, once you've got your assessment there, have a look now and do either pick up a different pen, or put a line around a little circle and put another measurement plot in there. So if you can see, I've got like an inner circle. Inside this inner circle, I want you to put what you would like it to be. So you've assessed it where it's at, but where would you like it to be? If 10 was the optimum, please don't make them all 10 out of 10. But what would you like it to be? So for my finance, you know, I put it at 7.5. I'd actually really like that to be at an 8.5. I didn't put 0.5s for any of the others, but I don't know why I did 7.5 of that. So put in what you would like it to be. If anyone's got any questions, you feel free to pop it in the chat box. Okay, so you've got the idea. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to think about one area that we want to focus on. So have a think about that. It doesn't have to be the one with the biggest gap, just what's jumping out at you as the one piece of the pie that you would like to focus on. So we have this view that if you just focus on one thing to start off with, it will have a domino effect on the entire wheel. So think about one thing. So do a circle around the one thing that you want to focus on. Then we're going to be actually having a bit of a play around with that, and we're going to start extracting the thinking around goals and around how to apply a goal to that particular area of our wheel of life. Here's an example of a business goals that's actually taken something that someone has worked on in their business, where they have actually wanted to improve their business, and then within that goal to actually improve the staff development in certain area of their business. This is a pretty good example of using the P part of the PDCA cycle. So they looked at what, who, when, what are the resources? So more around that who piece, the methods, the metrics and assumptions, but they didn't put in the why. They actually had that in an earlier section, and this was actually broken down into things. So very specific. So you can see there's times in there. There's, how many, what it is. So it's really quite detailed. Now there's different systems that actually are around, and we'll talk about the technology and templates that are around. In fact, Leanne, I sent through some paper templates. For those of you who don't have the tech systems in place just yet, there's a whole bunch of fantastic templates for goal setting, which Leanne will pop into the chat box, which you can just download any of those pages after this call to help you if you want to be actually just sort of doing some mapping out with. Some people find templates much more useful. But what I want you to do is to pick a goal that's relevant to your finance and wealth area. Well, that's what I want, or whatever segment it is. So for me, I want to look at my finance wealth piece. Even though it's high, I actually am at the stage in my career, and with my husband, sort of he's been in his role for 20 years. I've got this business, the Hawkins marketing business. There's things with BWA, and there's a role that I'm doing with Private Wealth Network that I really think that is really impacting on me focusing what I need to be doing in terms of setting some goals in my finance and wealth piece to be prepared for retirement. So, or let's not use the word retirement, prepared for transition, because I can't imagine I'll ever stop working or doing something that generates some sort of role. So I want to work on that aspect, but I want to come from the lens of finance and wealth. So you pick your segment and think about what sort of goal would be a great goal to achieve. And then we'll look at how do we make it measurable. So if we go down, write down your goal associated with the pie and piece that you picked. What would be a good goal? Might be an achievement goal. It might be a discovery goal. It might be a foundation goal. And then I want you to actually think about and write down why it is important. in what way is it measurable? How can it be measured? So how will you know that goal is achieved when you've achieved it? Who will be responsible for the achievement of that goal? Is it your goal to make happen? Is there other people that need to be involved in helping that goal occur? It's okay to scribble notes down at the moment. In order to achieve that goal, what are some of the milestones and steps that will have to happen in order for you to start moving towards the progression of that goal? What are the things that are coming up for you that you need to do? So an example for me is to book an appointment with my financial advisor, to actually start sitting down with Simon around actually mapping out what his goals are, because that's going to impact on my goal as well in terms of working out then how we're going to fund these goals as we transition. Now, mine is not yet a SMART goal, but it's starting to look like a SMART goal because I'm starting to actually put things like by age 65, dollar. I need to define my dollar mark. So that's going to help me measure, and I need my financial advisor to help me measure that financial. So a SMART goal takes a while to develop and needs some other inputs quite often. Think about where and when. Okay, now I'm going to actually set you up into pairs, and you're going to share with each other where you're at with it, what's coming up for you. And I'm just going to set up just random breakout rooms for now. And I want you to actually, I'll just stop this presentation for a minute. And Leanne, I'll get you to, yeah, it's amazing the actual conversations when we do our Chatham House rules, and we're back now recording. So thank you, everyone. So we've discussed our goal. Have a think about your goal. So what I was hearing in our breakout, in our private discussion there that we weren't recording, is I was hearing lots of goals. So the hardest part is to just pick one goal that you want to work on, just one. Like, so for me, I want to I want to understand how much money Simon and I are going to need to have by the age of 65 in order to use Perth as a base and be able to work and live overseas and interstate off and on throughout the year, and for that to be sustainable. So that got a time frame. So by the time we're 65, and from that goal, I've worked out then why that's important. It's important to me and Simon because this is a massive reason for why we've worked so hard in our lives. It's been a shared dream since the time we were friends, before we even became involved romantically and getting married, was our desire to explore the world. It actually is going to line up with us having what we think is a really vibrant life, you know, in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond. It's going to build memories. It's going to create opportunities for our children to tap into where it is that we are and explore and experience parts of the world in micro moments that they have available to them now that they're young adults. So, you know, this is my goal. And inside my planning, my what, how am I going to do that? You know, I have to meet with my financial advisor. I need to work out with Simon what it is that he has in mind. What are the places that we want to do? We have to work out what that's going to need in terms of yearly money that's going to sustain us to do that. What are our revenue streams? What are our expenses? All that sort of stuff needs to have almost like its own little plan. It's all like a business plan almost. So is there anything stopping you from this next step? So my next step is to discuss with Simon those broad things, get some broad mapping out of what those costs and experiences might be, and booking in a time with my financial advisor to actually then work backwards to, okay, that's what we're going to need. Are we on track, or do we need to do something now while we're in this accumulation revenue generating phase? How much are we going to need in order to be able to achieve that kind of freedom? So what's stopping me from the next step? Nothing. I just need to actually put it into my diary, book in that time with my financial advisor, and we've got a road trip coming up. So I'm going to warn him that this is going to be a part of our agenda, which he'll be so excited about. We're going to have all that time in the car together. How awesome. We'll be able to map it out. I'll be able to fill you in on all that. So planning a little bit more deeply is what we do when we actually have our goal. So many people articulate their goal, put it out there, and kind of forget about it. Write down that goal again. That's the one that you've just put up. Lucy has articulated her goal very clearly, what that's going to be over the next 12 months. I might have put a number on it. She might have a different number. She might want to be earning $500,000 in 12 months' time. She might be happy with 120,000, you know, whatever it might be. Put your goal in and make it measurable, because it's going to be milestone steps of getting there. Revisit, what is it? And come back to that why again. As Jeanette said, why is it important to you? Why is this goal important? What does it do? What does it bring to you? Why is it important? And there should be lots of whys in there, because if we really do believe and understand why that goal is important, it will keep bubbling up. As Kate said, she wrote down why it was important to her to be earning this kind of money per month as a retainer in order for her to be able to do her PhD. And guess what? It's the opportunity of that has happened. Her next questions are probably, can she start her PhD and do that with that 3 days a month, 3 days a week commitment, and still do the other things that are important to her as well? So there's going to be a bit of maybe pros and cons work that she's going to start doing on that, mapping that out. Okay, when we talk about how that goal will be achieved and how we measure it and how will we track it, so that really gets us forcing us to break it down into milestones, little steps. Little steps. So what's the first step? What's the first thing I could do to progress it? What's the next thing after that? What's the next thing? So even having, I think, 3 to 5 steps. I like 3 because anything more than 3 actually starts overwhelming me, but I actually start having 3 milestones that I can measure. So inside my P part of my PDCA cycle, I have all these micro little plans as well. So does it involve someone else? Does this discussion need to be around talking to my team around how they could increase their revenue? Do I need to set up an incentive scheme where they're also a part of the growth of my business, that I'm going to be enjoying this great salary from? What resources do I need? What resources do others need? And how do we work together to make that happen? So I'm not feeling overwhelmed by the only person. Estelle has got thinking about collaborating with someone else. Sue has a business partner in Joe. Tracy is coming from having a partner to being on her own. So how is she going to actually have some of that she's lost coming into the way that she plans going forward? Because that might be the thing that bogs her down. Oh, look, I've got a line there. So when will it start? When will these steps start? And when do I want to have that done by? Now, for those of you who use technology, Asana is great for me because I'll put in there the due date and my team will then know when it's done by. They might achieve it earlier and tick it off earlier, but as long as it's done by this due date, I want this done by the very latest on this date. What else are there and where? Where is this all happening and what does that mean in terms of space? Kat's identified that she needs to have her work environment in a place that has some social thing because she's obviously gets energy from other people and that improves her health and well-being by being around others. So looking at an office or a co-working location or whatever that might be that's going to fill that energy in that cup so that she's, doesn't suffer from isolation and loneliness that so many of us do as solopreneurs working from home. So delving into that plan is what is that goal? Is it, how is it an opportunity? Is it a problem we're solving? Is it a process that we're working on? Why is it important? How will it be done? Who will be involved? What resources? When are the milestones? And where? Right. Then we go into the implementation phase. So this is your action time. In my view, and I don't know who would dare challenge this, is everything starts with a date. So you've got a date. I want you to all to put what you've put something in, and I want you to put something in your calendar that is a date around that first milestone thing now. So jump on your calendar, pull out your phone, or jump on it, and put in some time for you to actually flesh this out into more detail. Is it a once-off or are you going to make that a recurring calendar booking? That time out to focus on that particular project. So you could call it a project name. It could be called my socially connected office project or my fabulous salary or my collaboration project. Is that, I'm thinking of Estelle there, Lucy, Kat. You've all got a really clear goal there that you want to work us on first. Call it by its name and have that as a recurring booking, I would suggest, or a once-off, and in that once-off, then you set up where that recurring booking is going to occur. And then, of course, when you start thinking about who are the stakeholders in, which of the meetings do you think you should be actually getting other people involved to be progressing those plans? So once you have a booking and people starting to buy into this plan, it will actually start hooking you into being accountable for it too. And then, of course, it's around tracking, tasks, assigning responsibilities and looking at their due dates so that that project takes shape. And that goal actually starts to become an implementation goal and it's being actioned by people and it starts becoming bigger than you. What else is there? Always asking what else. Don't worry, you're going to get these slides. So check. So we've got the plan, we've got the action, we've got all those action steps in. That's all we're going to do today. But then we have to make sure that we have in our action steps some opportunities to check how we're going against our original SMART goals and against our broader objective. And not just thinking about how we're going against those SMART goals, because I've actually seen people attain their amazing SMART goals and it's had wider impact that they actually have been blinkered because they've been so focused on a SMART goal that they haven't realized it's had actually a negative impact. So always stepping out and doing the bird's eye view and then stepping back in, just always challenging. It's my SMART goal really that smart just because it's measurable, attainable, realistic and time specific, or is it actually having negative impact on someone else or something else or some other aspect of my environment, my community, my family. What's working? What isn't working? Are there any surprises that have come along the way? What am I learning in here? This is the learning cycle that Tracy does so well. This is the check part that then goes into the learning piece. And I put in here the lessons learned. What are we learning? And this comes into this concept of Kaizen. So the Japanese started, they really, like the process improvement world, which I've grown out of, really came from this Japanese concept of micro steps of changes rather than problem solution. It was very Western. Oh, Chuck, that didn't work out. Let's just start a whole nother thing. Let's have a crack at this. Whereas the Japanese concept of Kaizen is all around steps, meandering, looking, checking, refining, tracking, tweaking, moving forward, learning, like it's that journey. And we've seen those sort of, you know, the pathway to success where it's squiggle. Well, it's really coming from that concept and thinking around those little micro steps. So what new information and what else? So if Erin Clark was on this call, I actually went and changed this because her LinkedIn post today reminded me, I had how we celebrate successes. And she reminded me today in her LinkedIn post that we have to celebrate our failures and our fuck-ups as well, because that's where the learnings are, really. And honestly, they're the things we often share in BWA, aren't they? We love talking about the things we've stuffed up because we're explorers, adventurers. We are constantly stuffing up, and that's what makes BWA so awesome. They're the things that we learn from. So how are we going to celebrate our wins? How are we going to celebrate our losses and our learnings along the way? So think about that too. Like, how are we going to celebrate it? How are we going to reward ourselves for something that we did that was really cool? Like, let's take a milestone around earning a certain income. Let's say the $200,000 mark over the year. Okay, if I'm going to earn in the next 6 months, then I'm going to get it up to, let's say 130,000, and then the 7th month, 140, 50, 60. So I'm going to work up to that. So each month I achieve that success, I'm going to reward myself by booking a day spa experience. So think about how you're going to reward yourself with the milestones that you achieve along the way. Don't forget that, because that is a really important part of actually recognizing and patting yourself on the back, which then encourages you to keep your brain and your mind and your body thinking along these lines. So often we achieve something, we're on to the next goal. And this is the act bit. So you've got your plan, your do, the checking bit, and now your act. Act is actually fine-tuning, tweaking, modifying, adding to, keeping bits, dropping bits. That's that really important part of the process improvement cycle. And this is what I love about it. Now, for me, I'm going to be starting my business planning part of the year on act, not on plan, because I've already got a plan in place. And I start this time of the year actually at my act part of the cycle before I go back into planning, is I look at and review what I've been doing, what needs to be fine-tuned, what do I want to retain, and what do I want to drop. So act part of the cycle is really important. And I have added systematizing the things that work well so I can get it off my list of things to do and give it to a team member. Otherwise, I'm going to be forever doing the bits of the business that could actually be done through a system. And that's where I find, for me, you know, something like, like Asana or one of those project management tools is great. So I will try and get the process right, look at the time of timing, and then I'll be able to know that when I assign those responsibilities and due by dates to other members of the team, that it's achievable and that's a system. And as soon as those systems aren't kept to, things fall in a heap, right? So how do we systematize from in this act section? What are we going to keep? What are we going to discard? What are we going to then turn into another planning cycle? So out of that review and out of that act piece comes another planning process. So it's continuous again. Okay, so what SMART goals are important now? Then implementing them, checking how we're going, tweaking. So it's circular. To be a nimble, adaptable, evolving organisation or a person that's evolving that way, this is the way to do it. And we have come to the end of our session. But as I said, this is where I'm starting, is I'm reviewing last year in terms of what are the goals, what are the things that worked really well that I don't want to lose. I don't want to be problem, solution, goal, drop. I want to refine my goals, look at what's working and how that can work for me. Now, some of the systems I talked about were project management. Actually, I'll go back to that. The project management software. So some of you use Trello, some of you use Asana. There's finance and reporting tools. Some of you use Xero. Some of you just get it from your accountant. Make sure if you are getting your reports from your accountant, you get your monthly reports so you can see what's going on. If you've got a CRM and a database, make sure that you're actually keeping your communications for your relationship management, your clients, your referrers, your prospective clients. How are you nurturing your prospective clients? Have you got communication scheduled to them through either e-news like MailChimp or those kinds of things, or are you scheduling posts on social media? What's the right way of actually keeping people? Remember, social media is important, but it's not going to do the sales process. You still need to have someone following up. It'll generate potentially a lead. So someone that might have responded on LinkedIn to something, have you got a system in place that's going to follow up with them to actually then bring them that conversation into your business and off socials? Document management. How are you filing, retaining, storing all your documents? Where is it? When you start having collaborators with you, have they got access? Can you use Google Docs to be making those documents live? Improving your processes and harnessing AI are all the sorts of things we're going to start really delving into this year as well. So as we finish up, I just would like to suggest that we all establish pairs. And I would like to suggest that Kerry and Kat join forces. So everyone put your email address into the chat box, and I want you to follow up with each other as accountability party to check in between now and our next event. So Kerry and Kat, I'd like Laura and Sasha to connect. I'd like Jeanette and Estelle to connect. Lucy and Tracy. Catherine and Catriona. Sue and Cheryl. Erin, I want you to connect with Crevia, and Leanne Jeffries will give you Crevia's address, and Lyn and Leanne are going to buddy up. I've decided to give you each of those groups because there's something that I've picked up that I think you might get value in. Knowing you all reasonably well, I think that would work really well, those kind of buddying. So you have to take then that conversation offline, work out a time when you can just do a 30-minute check-in with each other, or whatever you might choose to make it 45 minutes, where how are we going, what's coming up, just that accountability buddy with each other. And then you can make a decision at what time that would be. You know, do you give each other, do you want to do it monthly, or do you want to do it just, quarterly, however way it is. But I would really like for us then to be coming back online at a certain time and checking in. So I'm going to suggest that we do a check-in in 6 months' time and come back and see how we're all going. Leanne will set this up as another one of these sessions, but just with this group. And we're going to give some feedback on progress. Leanne, have you got, if we look at dates, if I go now and go 6 months' time from now, I'm looking at July. How is everyone placed on the 10th of July? No? 17th? How's the 17th of July for everyone? Thumb up, thumb down?
All good.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, the 17th of July is good for me. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this.
Lyn,
And
would you mind quickly running through the pairs again? And also because there's
Okay.
a few cats and yeah.
okay, so Kat, you're with Kerry.
Okay, Kerry Nobes.
Yep. We can stop recording now too. So thanks very much everyone for being here. Stay on board and we'll just stop the recording.